Okay, everyone ready? Good evening, everyone. My name is William Iannuzzi. I'm president of the Board of Education, and we are going to reconvene the public session of the meeting. Colleagues, can I get a motion and second to reconvene the public session of the meeting?
So moved, Castellano Minaya.
Second, Brooks.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Can we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Colleagues, can I get a motion and second to accept minutes of the Board of Education special meeting held on November 19th, 2024, as submitted by the clerk pro tem, and accept minutes of the Board of Education regular meeting held on December 10th, 2024, and accept minutes of the Board of Education special meeting held on December 17th, 2024, as submitted by the clerk and secretary to the Board of Education?
So moved, Williams.
Second, Ross.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up on our agenda, our Board of Education announcements. Do any of my colleagues have any announcements they would like to make? Ms. Williams?
I would just like to extend a happy new year to everyone in New Rochelle. I'm looking forward to 2025. We will thrive. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Ms. Brooks?
I just wanted to say I'm excited. Tomorrow there'll be an art exhibit called Air of Truth at the high school. There's the opening reception. It'll be at the Museum of Arts and Cultures. It's a collaboration between a group of Air of Truth interns, New Rochelle High School teacher Carmen Glenn, and the Energy, Justice, and Law and Policy Center. It's co-sponsored by the New Rochelle Fund for Educational Excellence.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Anybody else? Yesterday, I got to be a mystery reader at Barnard, where I read to a great group of first graders. The book I read was called Grumpy Bird. And so I ended up having a long conversation with them about, what happens if you're grumpy? What do you do? So it was a very nice day, and the kids were really into the book, so it was really cool. Yeah, that's it for me. Anybody else? All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to the superintendent's update. So Dr. Reynolds, I'll throw it over to you.
Thank you very much, President Iannuzzi. Good evening. Happy New Year. Welcome to those who are sitting here in person, to our families at home, and for those of you who will be watching at a later date, I greet you with a happy and a healthy and a hearty Happy New Year. We have a lot to hear about from our schools, but before we get started with that, I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge an individual who's in the room this evening. I would like to acknowledge our executive director for elementary, I'm not going to get the rest of the title. Our executive director, Dr. Nicholas Krakow, who is not a stranger to many of us. Dr. Krakow has served as principal of Barnard School prior to being elevated to the executive director position, where he really not only assists in supervising and in supporting our principals at the elementary school level, but also is completely in charge of our early elementary programming, our instruction, and all of the work that goes along with that. And this evening, Dr. Krakow, along with our director, David Lumen, will be receiving tenure. And I wanted to formally congratulate you on the nomination for tenure. At a later point this evening, a resolution hopefully will pass where you will be granted tenure. But I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge you and all of the work that you do on behalf of the students here in the New Rochelle School District. So thank you very much for your dedication to New Rochelle, and congratulations tonight. So as we move to our schools, the staff at Trinity Elementary School, also known as the Dream Team, have helped families in their community during the holiday season in collaborating with Kamisha's Community, Watermark Point, the Greek Church, the PTA, and other generous partners by collecting a wide range of gifts and gift cards which brought holiday cheer to countless families, exemplifying the spirit of giving to the community. And along those same lines, our New Rochelle High School's My Brother's Keepers Fellow teamed up with the Westchester County Youth Bureau and Department of Social Services to spread joy over the holiday season to children in foster care, homeless shelters, and protective services through the Bureau's and Department's holiday gift drive. The MBK Fellows, Mason Smith, Aiden Lawrence, Tahir Fernand, and Christian Parham Roan, collected 63 gifts and 2 gift cards from teachers, administrators, family members, and friends to add to the hundreds collected during the holiday drive. This effort was spearheaded by the Westchester County Youth Bureau's Executive Director, Ernest McFadden, and he attested that it was the first and most highly successful collaboration of the Youth Bureau with the Department of Social Services in the almost 20-year history of the holiday gift drive. I'm going to say it's due to New Rochelle's MBK's involvement. At Ward School, we have a huge celebration that we need to acknowledge. Each month, a local teacher working at an accredited school in either Manhattan, the Bronx, Westchester, or Putnam counties is recognized in print and digitally and have a chance to win a monthly national prize of $5,000 courtesy of Fordham Prep School and the Journal News. The teachers are nominated by the parent or legal guardian of any student currently enrolled in pre-K through 12th grade in a public, private, alternative, or parochial school within 50 miles of the Journal News' circulation area. This month, William B. Ward Elementary School's special education teacher, Joyce Kinches, is being featured as January's Amazing Teacher. Ms. Kinches has been teaching students who have developmental disabilities for more than 27 years. Her focus is on empowering students and creating meaningful connections to support their growth and success. Ms. Kinches comes from a family of educators, and she finds joy in her students' milestones, such as speaking their first word, participating in school events such as field days and moving up ceremonies, and helping them to reach their full potential. Albert Leonard Middle School Principal Dr. Camille Edwards Thomas and technology teacher at Albert Leonard Middle School's Media and Albert Leonard Middle School's Media Club co-advisor, now try to say that 5 times, Mr. Mark Silvati, were featured in an article in the January-February issue of National Association of Elementary and Secondary Principals magazine, which reaches principals of elementary and middle school students across the nation. In this article, the pair are quoted as stating that in today's digital landscape, it is crucial for schools to empower students to find their voices and engage with the world around them. They detailed that at Albert Leonard Middle School, student-led initiatives generated in the school's media club are doing just that, and it's great to have that national recognition of our students having voice in their learning. New Rochelle High School science teacher Kelly O'Grady has been competitively selected and awarded the opportunity to participate in NASA's Climate Change Research Institute in a research project entitled, now listen to this, Deciphering Changing Probabilities of Extreme Climate Events in Climate Models and Measurements. Okay, right? Under the mentorship of a NASA scientist, Dr. Allegra Legrand, Ms. O'Grady will work towards this endeavor. She demonstrated a high degree of expertise in educational leadership, curriculum development, pedagogy, science, technology, engineering, mathematics education, teamwork, collaboration, innovation, scientific expertise, and excellence in research. The Climate Change Research Initiative teachers were selected through a competitive application and panel review process. This program intends to create a professional learning community of STEM educators to inspire the next generation of explorers to pursue STEM careers. Ms. O'Grady will also serve as STEM education leader, liaison, and Climate Change Research Initiative educator ambassador for the NASA Office of STEM Engineering at the Goddard Institute for Space Studies. Let's give Ms. O'Grady a round of applause. 15 social studies teachers from Albert Leonard Middle School, Isaac E. Young Middle School, and New Rochelle High School recently joined area colleagues in White Plains for professional development, networking, and sharing best practices at the Westchester Lower Hudson Council for the Social Studies Conference. The professional organization provides information and collaboration for social studies teachers, leaders, and administrators from throughout the region. Teachers participated in a workshop to share ideas about better supporting and enriching students' lives and learning. Topics included document analysis, empowering student activism, and teaching, I'm sorry, I lost my way, and teaching resistance through human resources and human rights education. 2 New Rochelle educators presented at the conference. Albert Leonard Middle School Humanities Chairperson and hopeful tenure recipient this evening, David Lumen, shared practical research-informed strategies to help students improve memorization, recall, active use, and engagement with content area terminology in his presentation entitled, "Help! My students can't remember all this content vocabulary." New Rochelle High School teacher Elise Lapadula gave teachers ideas on how to best inspire students to become informed citizens who are committed to positive community change in a workshop entitled Empowering Student Activism, Teaching Resistance and Advocacy Through Human Rights Education. At New Rochelle High School, Jorge Ventura and Mariana Husafai from the Department of Development for the City of New Rochelle engaged New Rochelle High School students in Francisco Sandoval's Law, Government, and AP US History classes, who recently gained hands-on experience with city planning. The members of the Department of Development visited to present the multi-million-dollar initiative known as the LINK Project. How many people in here know what the LINK Project is? A few. Okay, keep the secrets to yourself. The LINK Project is designed to unite the Lincoln Avenue neighborhood with the New Rochelle's downtown, and this project will convert a portion of Memorial Highway and its overpass into a linear park. This revitalized space will feature pedestrian-friendly crossings, bike lanes, and recreation areas, fostering safer, greener connections between downtown, the train station, the library, and Lincoln Avenue, while supporting local residents and businesses. The visit marked the culminating activity for the students in the Civil Rights and Civil Liberties assignment and connected historical lessons to present-day community development. The visit also provided students with a sobering look at the neighborhood's history. They learned about Memorial Highway and the Lincoln Corridor, which flourished during the Great Migration following World War I, but were later devastated by redlining policies of the 1930s and urban renewal projects of the 1960s. The incomplete highway project ultimately displaced a predominantly African American community, leaving a lasting scar in the area. Students had the chance to envision a brighter future as they explored plans for the link. They shared their ideas, concerns, and feedback with the development team, fostering dialogue about how the project could address historical inequities while promoting sustainable growth, again, through the vision of our youth, through the eyes of our youth. At Huguenot Academy, Cold Spring Harbor's fish hatchery has the largest collection of protected fish, reptiles, and amphibians in New York State. And this is done so students can learn about environmental stewardship and the importance of protecting native species. At an earlier point in his career, Huguenot Academy biology teacher Jonathan LaRosa was a hatchery biologist at the Cold Spring Harbor Fish Hatchery and Aquarium on Long Island. That experience has opened a door for high school students in his class to learn with a hands-on educational journey into the natural world. During this visit, and this took place in the fall, 30 Huguenot Academy students experienced the centuries-old process of egg taking. That is when a biologist strips the eggs from a female brook trout and fertilizes them with the milt from a male. and the brook trout becomes the centerpiece of the lesson, serving as a gateway to understanding the broader scientific concepts necessary in preserving our nature areas for the future. And I would be remiss if I did not remind everybody of school closings. So please be prepared that all schools will have a half day of school for students on Tuesday, January 28th, 2025. This is for Superintendent's Conference Day so that our teachers can be professionally developed. All district offices and buildings will be closed on Monday, January 20th, 2025, in honor of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s Day. And finally, offices and buildings will again be closed on Wednesday, January 29th, 2025, in honor of the Lunar New Year. And with that, Mr. President, I conclude my report and I relinquish the microphone to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Reynolds. Next up on our agenda, the first discussion item is the Special Education Action Plan update. So Dr. Reynolds, I'll throw it back over to you to set the stage.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you, thank you. It is a good evening. This evening, we are going to revisit something that is very important for our entire community here in New Rochelle, and it's the revisiting of our Special Education Action Plan. Keeping in mind that as educators in public education, whenever we make decisions, policies, commitments to students that will meet most of our students, it's our intent that all of our students will benefit from it. And I'm very specific with those words. Oftentimes you hear educators state things like, we're going to reach all students. This is best for all students. Well, there might be one or two students or families who feel that that does not work for them. But if we approach education the way that public education was intended, with the intent to meet the greatest mass, to make sure that we meet the needs of most students, ultimately all students benefit from those practices. That is the case as it relates to special education. And independently, we as a district undertook a special education evaluation and created an action plan from that because we knew that we wanted to improve our practices. I will be the first to state that our improvement is slow going. And the reason for that is because we want to ensure that what we are putting into place is best for our populations, best for our community, best for its residents, but most importantly, sustainable. We don't want to put in quick fixes that have to be undone overnight. And tonight we're going to revisit our special education action plan with an update, and we're going to be led down that path of discovery by our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Dr. Olivine F. Roberts.
Mary
Question on all of our minds.
At the end of this presentation, I will have a meeting with HR to file a formal complaint. Good evening, Board President William I. Nuzzi, board members, Superintendent Dr. Reynolds, and community. Joining me tonight is our newest, our first, I should say, I think it's our first, Pre-K-12 Director of Special Education, Michelle O'Brien. Tonight, we're pleased to present to you an update regarding the implementation of our action plan designed to address the recommendations lifted in the evaluation of our special education program conducted by the Public Consulting Group, also known as PCG. This evaluation took place over 2 years ago. And so this is our first update that we're bringing forward to the community. In doing so, we'll begin by setting the context for tonight's presentation. From there, we will talk about our implementation roadmap. We will then share a status update and end by addressing how we will be moving forward. As it is our custom, it is important that we frame our context by starting with our why, which is our steadfast commitment to providing comprehensive academic programming for our students in service to realizing our vision, accomplishing our mission, and ensuring that we provide a fair and equitable education for every student every day. In addition, the improvement of our special education services to our students with disabilities is directly connected to all 4 directions of our strategic roadmap. To that end, special education, the action plan, is in alignment to the strategic roadmap. We also wanted to bring back to your attention the purpose as to why the evaluation was conducted, which was to identify areas of strength and, more importantly, areas of growth that would inform the development and implementation of a cogent strategic action plan designed to improve practice and elevate student learning. This action plan is the focus of our update tonight. Let's begin by revisiting the recommendations yielded from the evaluation. Displayed on this slide are the areas of focus and their aligned number of recommendations. Starting with row 1, going from left to right, are the MTSS, multi-tier system of supports, specifically addressing 4 recommendations. Next, special education referral, assessment, and eligibility practices, focusing on 4 recommendations. Specialized services and inclusive practices, addressing 7 recommendations, and CSC meetings and IEP development with 5 recommendations. Now moving to row 2. These are the areas of focus: inclusive community, addressing 2 recommendations, strategy, organization, and enact reporting, containing 4 recommendations, family and community engagement with 6, and human capital with 1 recommendation. Now to our last row. We have data reporting with 2 recommendations, policy and guidance documents, 1 recommendation, and staffing allocation model with 1 recommendation. Overall, the 11 areas of focus comprising of the 37 recommendations are the drivers of our action plan. You may access the comprehensive evaluation report by using the tiny URL or the QR code displayed at the bottom of the slide. We'll give you a moment if you want to capture the QR code or the tiny URL. At this time, we will bring back to your attention the implementation roadmap designed to address the areas of focus and recommendations. Being mindful and to ensure that the comprehensive scope of work is done with intentionality, we were very strategic in creating a multi-year implementation timeline, noting when the 37 recommendations would be addressed. We have approximated 5 years for all of them to be addressed with fidelity. Reflected on this slide is a high-level overview of the implementation that will take place over this 5-year period. This year at a glance denotes the specific implementation phase of each recommendation. I draw your attention to the legend at the bottom of the slide, which signifies the 3 different phases of work. P for planning, X denoting the start of an implementation, and C for continuing and monitoring of the work. So for example, you will notice that the recommendation for recommendation number 1 that says refamiliarize, that recommendation is denoted with an X in the first column entitled foundational year and continues over the next 4 years with the letter C denoting that this work will be continued and be monitored. To view the timeline in its entirety with all recommendations, because this is just a glance, you're welcome again to use the tiny URL or QR code at the bottom of the slide. Again, I will give you a moment if you want to capture that with your camera. To measure our success, as a reminder, we're utilizing these 10 key performance indicators known as KPIs, which include both quantitative and qualitative measures, as well as state and district measures. Next to each KPI is the measure that is being used, followed by our baseline. Please note that some baseline data denoted with the letter N. So for example, if you were to look at the third KPI, you will notice that it reads decrease the percentage of students referred for special education by N percentage points. The N percent, those with all N's, were established last school year and will be revealed shortly. And in the last column, we have the end of plan metrics signifying what we're aiming to achieve at the end of the plan and what we're using to monitor the implementation of the action steps over the duration of the plan. Last year, from November to June, served as our foundational year. So although the evaluation was conducted over 2 years, we needed to then take the time to build the action plan and to bring the action plan back to the board. That was done November of last year. So from November to June was the first engagement with this body of work known as the foundational year. Selected on this slide are those recommendations that were the focus during this period of time. At this time, new director, Pre-K-12 director, Michelle O'Brien, will provide the status update, highlighting what was accomplished last school year, as well as to address the scope of work for this school year. Please welcome Michelle O'Brien.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Roberts. I first would like to say thank you for the parents and my colleagues who are present here tonight and online, because I've stated in several different spaces we are in this together. So I really appreciate your support and joining in your focus and attention tonight. Tonight, I will join you to provide a status update to celebrate our accomplishments and share our current work, as well as refresh our memory of the tremendous work ahead. It is important that we celebrate our accomplishments, both large and small. As you know, last year was our first year of implementing our action plan. As Dr. Roberts has said, it was a result of the special education evaluation. We want to share with you the work that we accomplished. Please note that as I highlight these accomplishments, I want you to listen for themes of transparency, collaboration, and consistency. The work falls into 3 buckets: the facilitation of CPSE and CSE meetings, continuum of services, and the revision of board policies. While reviewing them, I will lift 3 specific accomplishments to your attention. The first accomplishment I would like to highlight is bullet number 1, addressing the launch and revision of the facilitator job description, which was paramount as it increases transparency and consistency in the work of the facilitators, as well as fosters equity within this peer group while also norming their practice. The second accomplishment I would like to highlight is bullet 3, addressing the creation of protocols with timelines to clarify the roles and responsibilities of CPSE and CSE participants in the CPSE-CSE process. Illuminating the role each participant in the CSE process plays will, like an orchestra, help us be in perfect harmony. Third, but certainly not least, I would like to highlight bullet 7, focusing on the review and revision of our continuum of services and supports. Having a description with criteria for each program is a game changer for our district. I hope as you comb through the accomplishments on the slides and heard the 3 highlighted ones, you've noticed that we are endeavoring to be transparent, collaborative, and to implement consistent practices. These accomplishments serve as a foundation on the work which we are building this year, and the foundation on which we are building this year's body of work. In our ongoing commitment to improve and for improvement and enhancement, we launched our annual stakeholder survey designed to gather valuable input and feedback from students in grades 6 to 12, parents, and staff, including teachers, support staff, and administrators regarding the programs and services provided by our special education department. We will review the results on the next few slides. With participation being voluntary and anonymous, as noted on the slide, 3,762 stakeholders received the survey, and 49% responded. To guide our strategic work moving forward, we examined the aggregated data for each stakeholder group as a means of capturing their perspective. The survey asked the stakeholders to respond to various statements using a Likert scale ranging from strongly agree, disagree, and strongly disagree. As reflected, of the 1,841 total respondents, 73% rated their respective statements favorably by indicating strongly agree or agree. Specifically, 80% of parents, 68% of students, and 72% of staff responded favorably. As this is an annual survey, it is our goal to increase the participation and the favorability rating. We would be remiss if we did not pause to express our deepest appreciation to all the stakeholders who took the time to respond to the survey. Thank you very much. And as a reminder, this survey is one of the key measurements being used to assess our effectiveness in meeting particular key performance indicators referred to as KPIs. On the slide are 3 specific KPIs to which our survey is aligned. The parent survey addressed all 3 KPIs, while the students and staff surveys focused only on the first 2. Reflected on the slide are the favorability response rates of the various stakeholder groups, indicating strongly agree or agree per aligned KPI. Overall, 73% of our stakeholders reported favorably to the first KPI, addressing the CSE process, appropriateness of IEPs, quality of programs, engagement of participants, and resources available. In regard to the second KPI, 69% of our stakeholders reported favorably about the special education department's climate and culture. And lastly, 79% of parents report favorability regarding the availability, accessibility, and quality of resources, our third KPI. We will now highlight some of the feedback from each stakeholder group, noting the greatest and least favorable items. Beginning with the parent survey, you can see the top 5 favorable and the least 5 favorable items. Of the top 5, we are very happy to highlight a parent favorability rate high of 92% about staff engaging with parents in explaining their child's eligibility for special education services, and 91% are provided a copy of their child's IEP, while we still aim for 100%. While we celebrate our areas of strength, we also recognize the work that needs to be done, as indicated by our least favorable ratings, including the area of communication, as parents responded at a rate of 57% regarding being notified if related services are canceled, and 55% are a part of the decision-making process when rescheduling canceled services. On this slide, we have our top 5 and lowest 5 responses from our students. Among the greatest favorable items, ranging from a high percentage of students reporting positively with a rating of 88% about receiving help to be successful in school, to 81% indicating that they can participate or join in school activities like clubs, sports, etc. Of the least favorable, a low percentage of students, specifically 45%, reported feeling comfortable in CSC meetings, and 39% reported that they actually attend CSC meetings. On this slide are the staff's highest or greatest and least favorable items. Of the greatest, staff reported at a rate of 93% that they clearly explained to parents and caregivers why their child needs special education services or why they still are eligible to receive special education services. And 93% also noted that they understand what is documented within students' IEPs. Among the lowest, 31% responded that there is effective and consistent communication between school and the Department of Special and Alternative Education. And 22% noting that parents are provided adequate training and access to resources so they can support their children at home. Now, going back to the KPIs, this slide displays our baselines, including the items that needed to be established, what was accomplished last year, and again, our end of plan targets. Drawing your attention to the 2023-24 column, you will notice that several of our baselines established last year, denoted with the term baseline above the percentage. For example, row 3, that KPI's baseline is 2.7%, was established last year. For the KPIs with previously established baselines from the 2022-2023 school year, the data indicated that progress is being made, particularly in rows 1 and 2, which address student performance. The percentage of students with disabilities meeting proficiency increased in both literacy and mathematics as measured by STAR and New York State Ed assessments. Knowing that there is so much work to be done and improvements to be made, not only will we focus on this year's body of work, which is outlined on this slide, while we continue to deepen the work from last year. Here you will notice the recommendations that we will be addressing either by planning, implementing, or continuing to monitor. On the next 2 slides, we will specifically note the areas of focus driving our work this school year. By the end of the school year, we wish to accomplish the following. The foundation of this work, setting a clear vision and engaging in action planning. This work also includes developing a comprehensive plan to expand integrated co-teaching, addressing the preschool declassification process to ensure that it's conducted in a compliant manner, implementing specially designed instruction, also referred to as SDI, which refers to tailor-made teaching methods and strategies that are adapted to meet the unique learning needs of students with disabilities. This type of instruction is an essential component of special education services and is implemented to help students access the general education curriculum more effectively. Examining our systems and improving supports for our English language learners, also referred to as ELLs, with disabilities, which includes expanding support for parents of ELLs with disabilities and those who are not native English speakers. Creating a robust, multi-year professional learning plan for different audiences, including general educators, special educators, related service personnel, aides, teaching assistants, parents, etc., developing and implementing a comprehensive data collection system that includes IEP goal data as well as behavioral data, providing training and resources to staff members on the importance of data collection and how to effectively use the data to inform instructional decisions. Additionally, we will work on increasing transparency in our practices by updating and creating standardized guidance documents, increasing collaboration through the refining and alignment of roles and responsibilities of CPSC and CSC participants that includes clear timelines for activities, including communication with families and distribution of evaluation reports, including IEPs. Continuing our work in which we are partnering with the state to address disproportionality within special education, specifically Black children being referred to the CSC as well as suspended at a higher rate than their counterparts of varying ethnicities. As we collectively can agree, increasing knowledge is important for any type of improvement to occur. Hence, another area we are focusing upon is building the capacity of leaders, teachers, and families. Capacity building includes, but is not limited to, engaging in professional learning opportunities, providing workshops, and coaching. Again, collaboration and transparency in this work are essential. Together, we can do so much more in support of our kids. Our students need us. Hence, we have begun to increase our engagement with staff, administrators, parents, and partnering organizations in this work, which includes the development of a parent manual and training plan for families. Finally, to increase efficiency and responsiveness before the start of this school year, we began realigning roles, responsibilities, and structures of the Office of Special Education, which includes clerical, facilitator, and administrative roles. To monitor and measure our effectiveness, our KPI targets for this school year are highlighted on this slide in green in the column 3. Obtaining these targets will position us to meet our end of plan targets. Since the beginning of the school year with a new team, we have been intentionally focused on addressing our areas of focus, including improving communications with families and CSC meetings, building the capacity of staff, improving our quality assurance measures as well as our data management system, and restructuring and aligning our leadership team. The following slides will highlight more specifically the work that has been accomplished thus far in service to these areas. As parents are children's first teachers and important partners in their learning, we are taking a strategic approach to enhancing parent and family engagement across all grade levels for our students with IEPs. Our goal is to build strong relationships with families, provide consistent communication, and empower parents and caregivers as partners in education through a strategic approach with the development of a communication plan addressing the following: the building of relationships through consistent outreach and responsiveness, and actively monitoring and evaluating engagement. For example, it is now the expectation that we will respond to families within 24 hours via email and/or phone. The communications plan will include supports and resources accessible by all of our parents, such as parent and family guides translated in different languages and interpreters to render services during meetings. Additionally, we are offering a series of parent, in-person, and virtual workshops and webinars. These were launched in December, and we are appreciative of the 77 parents who took the time to participate. As we update our website, we will also add the workshop presentations so families can access them at a later date. We will continue to add user-friendly resources as they are revised and developed. Lastly, as we maintain a posture of continuous improvement, we will continue to seek and garner feedback via our stakeholder surveys and by engaging with the Parent Steering Committee, who has been forthcoming with great insights. Now, addressing our CSC meetings. The development of guiding questions will provide greater clarity and consistency in decision-making process used by the Committee on Special Education and Preschool Education. When considering recommendations for programs and services that best support needs of our students, including age and interest-appropriate transition planning, progress monitoring, parent and student voice, and implementation of the IEP. These questions will help in making informed, consistent, and transparent, data-driven decisions regarding special education services. Currently, this comprehensive tool is undergoing tremendous scrutiny by both staff and steering committee, and warranted changes will be made based upon their feedback. The tool will be launched by the end of this month. Knowing the importance of professional learning and its impact on student learning, this slide highlights our comprehensive approach to enhancing our staff's capacity in the special education department. While we prioritize providing professional learning opportunities on the superintendent's conference days through workshops on special education policies, IEP development, instructional strategies, and compliance with New York State Ed regulations for teachers, teaching assistants, and aides, we also provide quarterly training for our clerical assistants, facilitators, and administrators on systems to improve efficiency and accuracy in record keeping, compliance with New York State Ed regulations, and use of technology. Additionally, to further build the capacity of our CSE facilitators, each month we engage in a roundtable discussion, training focusing on addressing effective practices, reviewing case studies and legal updates, as well as tackling issues by engaging collaborative problem solving. And our ABA staff receive ongoing differentiated coaching support that includes throughout the school year with a minimum of 6 touch points. These experiences are helping to promote and nurture a community of learners in which one individual's learning is not only enriched, but the school district as a whole is enhanced. As a means of improving our practices and services, we are focused on implementing organizational quality assurance methods. One such method is the internal auditing of our IEPs, which serve as a cornerstone of the special education process for our students with disabilities. This audit, conducted by the department's leaders and facilitators, assessed compliance with New York State Ed's Guide to Quality IEP Development and Implementation Standards. Our first round of audits involved the review of 100 IEPs, equating to 6% from last school year. This number may sound small, but it is 3 times the number of a typical state audit for a district of our size. Please note that our sample size will increase as the year progresses. This initial review comprised of IEPs from both our K-12 and ungraded bands, in district, out of district, district of location, and district of residency. The results revealed that 79% of the reviewed IEPs met the New York State Ed criteria and were of high quality. To address these findings, we are focused on improving the writing of our IEP goals, using data effectively to inform the CSE recommendations, and developing transition planning at the secondary level. With these improvements being made, our goal is to see an increased percentage during our next round of review. Data management permeates throughout an organization. affecting nearly every aspect of its operations, strategy, and culture. Incorporating the use of comprehensive data collection system is crucial for ensuring that IEP goals and behavioral data are accurately tracked and used to inform instructional decisions. To accomplish our systematic improvement, we are partnered with building administrators to develop a comprehensive data collection system supported by ongoing training and coaching, aligned resources, and the consistent monitoring and analysis of data. This system will increase the accessibility to student information while maintaining its security, as well as increase efficiency in practices. What does this mean to parents and students? Parents will receive IEPs with schools their children are scheduled to attend faster than previously experienced. And the quality of implementation of IEPs will improve. As you all are aware, the Special Education Department has undergone some transitions in leadership at the start of this school year. With our Director of Elementary leaving, we seize the opportunity to re-examine and realign our leadership structure by addressing one of the recommendations from the external evaluation. I draw your attention to this slide, which reflects our new leadership structure, starting with a single director overseeing our pre-K-12 district-wide program. This change, along with the denoted feeder pattern structure, is intended to build a more seamless, comprehensive, and robust program for our students with disabilities, ensuring a more targeted and coherent approach to teaching and learning in our schools and classrooms, as well as a stronger alignment of systems, practices, processes, and supports. Starting with the first row, the addition of one assistant director to the pre-K-5 band allows a reduction in the number of schools overseen by each person. This begins with one assistant director supporting our Committee on Preschool Special Education and Pre-K-2 at Barnard. When these students leave Barnard, they attend one of the 6 remaining elementary schools, as indicated by the arrow, originating from Barnard and extending to the 2 K-5 boxes, demonstrating that Barnard students feed directly into the 6 elementary schools after 2nd grade. You notice that there are 2 assistant directors serving these 6 elementary schools after 2nd grade. Each one is charged with a set of 3 schools. One supports Columbus, Jefferson, and Trinity, and the other supports Davis, Ward, and Webster. At the conclusion of a student's tenure in the elementary grades, they matriculate to middle school, as indicated again by the arrows leading from each set of K-5 schools to its respective middle school. Each middle school continues to be supported by its assigned assistant director. And lastly, each middle school, from there, our students transition to the high school. Again, as indicated by the arrows going from the 2 middle schools to the high school, which includes Huguenot Academy, one assistant director continues to support this grade band. With one additional assistant director at the elementary level and the filling of 2 vacant positions this year, we started with basically a new team. Within the last few months, we are pleased with the progress being made and work accomplished thus far. But there is still so much work to be done. The team remains committed to improving our practices and services. Before moving on, I would like to take this opportunity to thank them for their devotion and quickly introduce you to them. So I'm going to start furthest. I have Clara Reyes, Maureen Avion, Courtney Johnson, Cynthia Cameron, Karina Villalona, and Michelle Frett. At this time, I turn it back over to Dr. Roberts, who will share our next steps.
Thank you, Michelle and team. So, as was just shared, we are pleased with the work that has been accomplished thus far. But, and I emphasize but, there is still much work to be done. This is a heavy lift, and in order for us to address the actions that we have denoted and to improve quality of program and services, we're rolling up our sleeves and we are actually engaging in what I call sweat equity work. And so there is a lot of work to be done the remainder of this school year. So we just wanted to give you a glimpse into what that is as we continue to move forward. So in doing so, we'll first continue to build the capacity of our teachers, support staff, and administrators, and persist with the building and implementing of effective quality assurance practices, finalize and implement our quality family communications plan, while leveraging the guidance of the newly created steering committee and other stakeholders as we review, revise, and socialize the department's vision, develop a comprehensive plan to inform the expansion of integrated co-teaching across the district, and lastly, revise and administer the annual special education survey. This concludes our presentation. We appreciate your attentiveness and we welcome your questions.
Thank you very much. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Done?
I just want to thank you and the whole team for because I know that this was a long time in the works, you know, for now a couple of years. So I really appreciate it, and it's very exciting to see all of the details, you know, coming together. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Don. Any other of my colleagues have any? Oh, Ms. Brooke? Oh, Ms. Castellano-Manat?
Thank you both so much, and thank you to the team for your hard work on this. I just wanted to ask a point of clarification that I think I know the answer to, and then make a comment. So oh, sure, is that better? Okay, sorry about that. In the key performance indicators, the first two items, when you're talking about student performance and increasing it by percentage, is that proficiency? So does that percentage represent students that are proficient?
That is correct.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't misreading it. So I just wanted to congratulate you on the progress on the items that did have data points last year to this year. That's really exciting. And I think almost all of the data that did have baseline data from 23, 24 to 24 to this year, from the first year to the second year, showed progress. So congratulations on that. And thank you for setting the goals going forward. And I did want to just sort of note that I would hope that also it was a little surprising that students with disability went up, but all students stayed flat on one of those measures. And so I look forward to also having similar sort of data for the rest of our students as well.
And we'll address the why behind that in April when we come back with our CNI report.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I don't want it to rain on the otherwise amazing work that's here. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Castellano-Manat?
Hello, and thank you. Thank you to everyone in the room. Thank you to everyone who's not in the room that is a part of all of this work, including the almost 500 students that participated in this in this survey. And I'm just truly humbled to see the kind of conversation we're having now versus a few years ago in terms of special education in this district. Yes, it was 434 students, 54%, and 80% of staff, 1,009 staff members. The qualitative data here, even just the small portion that you're sharing with us in this extremely comprehensive, honest, reflective presentation is so powerful. The fact that there's been so much effort to listen and elevate the voices of our students, our staff, our families in service of elevating instruction for students with IEPs is tremendous, and I cannot say enough how thankful I am to be in this room and a part of this team as a board member. And the fact that you're so forthcoming with sharing this data with all of us, both the favorability items as well as the least favorability items, that's powerful because only then can we really be honest about where we need to go and move forward. There's so much to celebrate in here, and there's just also so much in terms of informing next steps and the restructuring, the leadership at all levels, including our students, will really help us drive in the next few years just improvement, growth, empowerment for our students. So I just wanted to say thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to the day where we can say that 100% of our students feel comfortable in a CSE meeting and are able to advocate for themselves. And I know this is 6 through 12, but I can already see it trickling all the way down to our pre-K students through 5th grade students, where they too feel that my IEP is a Bill of Rights, and this will help me be successful in school. So thank you for your work, and I'm very inspired and grateful for all of the collaboration that you all do day in, day out. There's not enough hours in the day to get all of this done, and I know it will not happen overnight, but thank you, and keep on letting us as a board know how we can support this work.
Thank you. Ms. Ross?
It doesn't want me to speak, but I want to reiterate what both of my colleagues have said in terms of there's what I really appreciate about what you have in here is, and I think Dr. Reynolds said it earlier, that it does impact all students. It is specifically a special education readout. However, we actually have in here goals for all of our students. And I really appreciate, having been on the board now 3.5 years, that we actually have real goals and we're measuring ourselves against it. And we're including students with disabilities, but we're also including all students, and we're tracking our progress each year. And so I actually want to commend you all on having this written down and for us to be able to track progress, because I feel like this is a huge milestone for us to actually have them written down, and then to see the improvements is amazing. Just, yes, we still have a lot of ways to go, but just to see that, hey, things are actually working, and there are probably going to be things you find maybe don't work. But the fact is that we are able to measure it. We're going to see how we're doing, and we're going to try different things to get to kind of the final end goal. And it's not really the end goal. It's sort of what we've put out there for 5 years from now, but we'll have other goals. But it's fantastic to have that. I also want to, similar to what Katie said, is, and I think specifically when I read the feedback from the staff, and it's in their least favorable comments, is actually great information that's right here. And I feel like oftentimes people don't necessarily always realize that our staff really do have the best interest of our students. And what this says to me is that they do have the best interest of our students, and they're feeling the same struggles that our students are feeling, or the parents are feeling, and that they also see that there is an issue and they want to help. And I think the fact that we can identify that means that we'll actually see progress, because it's the people that are actually in it day to day can hear it, and will, I think, sort of make those changes happen going forward. So so I appreciate really seeing that, because I do really feel like these are gems for us to be able to capture, but then for us to actually kind of be able to work from there. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. Mr. Singhal?
Yeah, I'll echo that. Those numbers from the staff caught my attention. And I hope, and it sounds like we are, but it's really important because we need them to help make the change. And so we want to address everything, but to start from within, because if the staff and the teachers and everyone who's working with the students are feeling more confident that they have the skills and the resources they need, it will absolutely trickle down to the students. So I hope we'll pay special attention to that.
Thanks, Mr. Singhal. Ms. Clayton and Ms. Williams?
Sorry. So this was eye-opening, because I can see that this was your boots on the ground, but also boots off the grid into what the landscape must look like in other schools, what their platforms are, learning from them. And it'll, obviously come back to us and they'll be learning from you. But I was also just taken aback by your by your action plan. I thought that that's a great way to end the presentation, or kind of come towards the end and just show what's ahead. So just out of curiosity, what was the hardest part of this for you, if you don't mind me asking?
The hardest part was doing the day-to-day work while gathering all of this information, all of the data.
Well done.
Thank you.
Ms. Williams?
Thank you, Dr. Roberts, Director O'Brien, and team for all of this work that you've put in. And have questions from 2 slides, okay? From the action plan, slide 24, address disproportionality. So what are some strategies that our district are using to address the disproportionality of suspension and classification of our Black African American students?
If I
Or
may,
is that something that's in the works?
sure, if I may
already?
start off, many times you've heard me state that our practices and platforms have not always been married. So while our teachers, our practitioners are have very good intentions in capturing data, because our platforms were not sustainable in terms of retaining that data, giving us good data back so that we can study it, we were not able to really put our finger on the pulse of what was happening. We are making changes to those platforms now. As a part of integrating what used to be called RTI, Response to Intervention, to multi-tiered systems of supports, and making sure that we carry over practices of really looking at data and looking at data sets where we're paying attention to not only the type of infraction that's occurring, who is being accused of the infraction, but down to the nitty-gritty of what time of day, what the environment looks like. We are able to really look at practices and triggers
Mhm.
that will help us, as oftentimes it's the adult that needs to change their practice and perception. So it helps us look at it through that lens while helping the student to make better choices as well. So our disproportionality can be looked at from many different perspectives as it relates to the daily interactions with students, what may lead to that, what our perceptions are as adults, and how we can address that through some of the work that we're doing as it relates to competency and I'm losing my words. The work that we're doing with that we've done with Dr. Gooden. Thank you. Our CRSE framework, because oftentimes it can be adult perception, and we want to be sure the data is showing us it is not adult perception, and that we are really addressing the needs of our students. But that's the start, and I'll let you finish that answer.
In addition, so let's bifurcate. So in regard to CSE, right, and students being referred, okay, that begins with tier 1 instruction, right? And so initial instruction, first instruction. So actually this school year, that is the focus of our professional learning for our teachers and staff. So we started during our first superintendent's conference day in November. We're going to revisit again in January and again in March. And in between those sessions, our department chairs, our coaches, led by our principals, are also deepening the work. Because if we do not get first instruction right, we'll continue to have an increase in the number of referrals for special education services. So knowing that, we are deeply committed to ensuring the improvement of first instruction. Now, shifting to suspension, We are in partnership with Student Support Services led by Dr. Gail Joyner in really addressing through our newly released, maybe it's not new anymore, Student Code of Conduct, but there is a Student Code of Conduct Committee that is actually putting together the toolkit to really ensure a strong quality implementation and adherence to the Student Code of Conduct. We believe by those two things coupled with our continuous approach to our CRSE framework, starting with welcoming and affirming environment, because if students don't have a sense of belonging, if they don't feel that they're celebrated and that they're empowered, we won't even get to principle 2. So it's really using and leveraging principle 1 as our core of how do we continue to enhance and to build an environment where students feel welcome, where they can thrive. And we believe in collaboration and integration of all of those, we will see a shift. We have not been cited by the state, so let me clarify that. Okay? We have not been cited for the state for disproportionality. We're being proactive and working with the state so we do not get cited. So I just wanted to clarify that so no one walks away with a misconception.
And I have a question, because this is part of the action plan for 2024, 2025. So is this the foundational year or that we're addressing the disproportionality? And
It's a
then
continuation.
it's
So if
continuation.
you were to go back and look at the comprehensive action plan with the legend, you would see disproportionality and it would have a C for continuing.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
You're quite welcome.
And also on page number 30, slide 32, I believe. Okay, with the action plan, current work and leadership, we see that at pre-K through 2 or pre-K through 5, there are 3 assistant directors. Is it that the students are declassified as they go to the middle school, or is it the same amount of students who are overseen by 2 directors?
So initially, so let's go back to go forward to answer your question.
Right.
So last year, this time, there was only 1 assistant director in our pre-K 5 space. And that was Michelle Fred. She's still with us, right? And so, okay. And so when when the director for elementary band decided to leave the district, it is a recommendation within the evaluation report that we have 1 director, right? In looking at the work, the body of work that must be done for us to right the ship, we thought it necessary to go beyond just 1 assistant director at the elementary level. So it's not the number of students increasing while we now have 3 directors. It's really looking at the work and being able to do the work with fidelity and with intentionality. And so hence we repurposed the director's position by adding a 2nd director to the elementary band.
Okay.
Assistant director,
The
thank
assistant
you.
director. Okay,
Okay.
please forgive me for being
worries.
unclear.
No worries.
What I meant that there were a certain amount of students at the beginning, from pre-K through 5, which required 3 different assistant directors. And then all of a sudden, those same kids go through and then they only need 2. And then when they're in high school, there's just 1. So my question is, or I'm thinking, do we need more directors? Do we need 3 at all of the levels? Or do we have enough assistant
I'm
directors?
going to
That's
say
my
we have
question.
enough. Again, we went from 2 in the pre-K 5 space to 3, right? So again, it's not where we have more students being added. So last year we had 2. We had the CPSE director, and then for the rest of K-5, we had 1 director. So those were the 2 directors assistant directors, excuse me, I
Okay.
keep saying directors. So I'm probably confusing you, my apologies.
No,
And-
but I'm thinking, this is my question.
Mhm.
It's like the same amount of students
Yeah.
require fewer
Yeah,
people.
hold on.
That's
Can I maybe add a piece of information. So in the elementary space, you have K to 5, that's 6 grades of students. So there are more elementary students in our district because we have more grades in elementary
Okay.
school, whereas middle school, you only have 3 grades represented. And so that doesn't address maybe the high school question, but I think between elementary and middle, I would guess that if you were to put the number of students at Columbus, Jefferson, Trinity in the 6 grades that are represented at that school, that might be close to what's at one of our middle schools that have 3 grades.
I'd also like to offer, it's not so much the number of students or special education cases. It's also supervising different CSE processes in 3 different buildings. So you now have one person who is in charge of facilitating or supervising the CSE, CPSE process at 3 elementary schools, another person at another 3 elementary schools, and another person at another 3 elementary schools. When you get to the secondary schools, the process is the same for all students within that building, which is why it would require only one assistant director. So it's more about the process than it is the actual number of students.
Okay.
And it's also about the number of environments that the person has to supervise as opposed to the number of students.
Okay, that makes sense.
Perfect. So my question is kind of bouncing off what Gwen was asking. She asked you, what was the hardest part of getting this work done? What do you see as the barriers moving forward?
I'm going to take that off your plate. So, what we are noticing can be attested to what's considered to be post-COVID. We are noticing an increase in students presenting with challenges. We see an increase in the need of what our students require to be successful in the educational setting at an earlier age. So we think that the number of opportunities for exploration of special education services for students are going to continue to increase. I don't know any district right now that's equipped to keep up with the level of increase of need. So I think this plan puts us in a better place than we were a year ago, 2 years ago. Might we have to change this to meet the needs of our students? Yes. But right now, we think we have enough wiggle room to meet the needs of our students within the next coming years. But I think that for me, that's the biggest challenge that I see coming. And a lot of the behaviors are a lot more intense than they were previously. And we're seeing that on a wider spread basis than we have in the past. And I'm just speaking from my own personal perspective, and I see my colleagues nodding their heads.
And if I may add, I would say maybe equally is the capacity to hire and retain.
Mm.
So last year, we had several vacancies. We still have vacancies to date. And so that's a hindrance, right? And it's not something that's unique to the City School District of New Rochelle, nor unique to New York State. It's a national issue, right? And it's something that continues to plague us. How do we get quality and retain? So that's I would say a big hurdle.
Thank you. Unless you had something to add.
No, I mean, I think they've captured it.
I just had one last question. Sorry, I had one last question. So when you're doing the facilitators, all of the roundtables and the discussions and training, is Westchester Putnam involved in this, or is this you guys by yourself?
So we get supported by Southern Westchester BOCES as well as Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES.
Okay.
We tend to work more intimately with Southern Westchester BOCES for most of our processes, but dependent upon what's the need and what's the availability, because they also collaborate with one another.
Right.
It depends on who will lead what work.
Okay.
or support
Thank you.
what work.
Again, well done.
Any other comments or questions? Perfect. Thank you guys. Oh, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say again, I didn't mention this and I should, but thank you to SEPTA for their leadership because that partnership is so key with the family education piece, knowing how to navigate this process for families because there can be so much jargon and it can be very overwhelming for families to navigate this. So I'm just so grateful that we have in this district such a strong SEPTA and the fact that we have so many educators, parent advocates that are helping empower our families just to understand and take away some of the fear around navigating this process. And I congratulate any family that has gone through this process and helped be a part of empowering their child to get the supports that they need to be successful in schools. Congratulations. It's very, very important for the trajectory of your child. Thank you.
Thank you for reminding me to say thank you very much to SEPTA because SEPTA is like so active beyond your imagination for any other district I've been in. They're very much so partners in the work and very much so proactive. Some members are here tonight, so I really appreciate that.
Can you please spell out what's happening for the community?
It's Special Education Parent Teacher Association. So it's parents of students with disabilities, as well as it's open to staff, and there are several staff members that join it monthly. The meetings are in person as well as online. They offer them in hybrid formats. They offer opportunities for learning every meeting and opportunities for students and parents to engage with one another and provide moral support to one another. And there's not one session that we all don't grow and are better for attending. So please attend if you have not attended yet.
Perfect. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it. So next up on our discussion items is the next presentation, budget work session number 2.
Good evening again to the board and to the public. This evening, for our second presentation, we are prepared to bring to you our second budget workshop, our conversation as relates to the development of the budget for the 2025-26 school year. It was just earlier today that we met with our administrators at Albert Leonard Middle School, and I welcomed them back with a hearty Happy New Year. And I can't believe that we are already a quarter century in to this.
Quarter century.
I mean, I'm still waiting for Y2K to hit, right? So, but here we are talking about our budget for the 25-26 school year. As we promised last year, we wanted to begin these conversations sooner than we have ever in the past. The reason for that is because our financial landscape statewide is becoming a little bit more unpredictable as our years move on. And tonight you're going to see with some information that we're going to present to you that we are still awaiting some very key information so that we can begin to have a very strong grasp on what our budget landscape will look like for next year. So tonight we're going to share with you some information that has developed between the last time we've met to tonight. And we're going to be led down that path of discovery by our Assistant Superintendent for Business and Operations. I think I change your title almost every time I mention it, I introduce you. But our Assistant Superintendent for Business, Mr. Carlos X. Leal.
Thank you, Dr. Reynolds. I am joined tonight by Joy Mike. We did this last time. Good evening. So good evening, President Iannuzzi and board members. I'm joined by Joy Mike, our business administrator. And I am basically going to do a repeat of the presentation we offered you the last time we came together and just highlight where we have a few additions. As Dr. Reynolds mentioned, we are truly waiting for the state to give us information. And it is so quiet, it's a little eerie. But that's really what we need to be able to provide you with a greater robust presentation, which I believe the next time we come together, we'll be able to provide you a robust update because we believe at that point we'll have more information and then be able to make some internal adjustments to the presentation. So I will just jump in and with your allowance, I will just go quickly through the first slides because again, the budget process has not changed in terms of our developmental process in doing this work. And everything that we do and continue to be focused on is aligned to our strategic roadmap, our commitment to the whole child. And that being said, I want to highlight our budget priorities because I'm not sure that these were articulated as clearly as they could have the last time we met. So in our priorities, as we develop the budget, we are evaluating staffing needs and requests. As mentioned, we've already met with all of our schools and our department directors. And so we discussed that. Also, a review and evaluation of the retirements in those areas or various areas. And so you have already approved some of those or received those retirements on the last 2 board meetings. Then the evaluating the grant fund positions and programs, i.e. we had some positions in grants that we moved over into general funds. We also have other grants that are coming to an end this school cycle. And so therefore those would also be coming into general funds. And then how do we realign our resources in general? So the budget variables, now very similar to last, and I'll just mention here where we did the add. But CPI for a tax levy, it's trending above 3%. The state aid, we are still waiting for the governor's proposal. I think the 14th or 15th, somewhere in there, she's supposed to deliver some kind of address, and hoping at that point we'll have something. So that really speaks to the foundation aid allocation. We don't know what that is. The Rockefeller report, we hoped would inform that process and that we would make a quicker decision, which that has not happened. And then building aid, completed and ongoing capital projects. We have added that particular line to this particular slide because we need to keep in mind that we need to make sure that we maintain our buildings and that we actively prepare for that. Then the IDA grants, which I just mentioned, which is the carryover monies that we were using to fund some of those positions. Those carryover dollars are no longer accessible to us. Then the Westchester County sales tax and the appropriated fund balance. Just a reminder of the tax levy history. We've seen this slide several times, so I won't belabor that. And then in the pictorial representation of that chart, which is the tax levy that showed prior to COVID, and then the widening because we use those COVID dollars, and then we're kind of in practice moving back to basically maintain our tax levy. And then we shared with you all the grant funds as a recap. And then I will share with you the last budget variable of our expenditures, which is a slide that you have seen before, but I'll highlight we added one particular line item here. But right now the retirement system rate decrease is negative 0.11. The local retirement system rate increase by 1.3%. And then the anticipated health insurance plan rates. So please keep in mind that the impact of decreased employee retiree contributions will also play into the building of our budget. The 7.5% to 10% for active employees, and then the 8.1% to 13.8% for retirees. So again, this just goes back to the costs associated with health insurance related to all of our staffing. 18.3. Did I ask you that? Okay. The liability and other insurance rates. As you know, last year we got a huge increase to our insurance. We have not heard yet what our insurance rates will be for next year. So again, it's just eerily quiet. And that I'm going to say that's more concerning than anything else. Then utilities and the fluctuations related to that, keeping in mind that we have obligations to our collective bargaining agreements, and then the transportation and other contractual increases as well. So I'll pass it over to Joy so that she can just speak to the rest of the presentation. But in essence, it's the same presentation with just a few highlights.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Okay. Trying to make sure I speak up. Okay, so I'm going to review our budget roadmap. As well, as Mr. Leal mentioned, we did have buildings and departments submit their budgets November 22nd. We then had a series of budget review sessions from December 4th through just before the break on the 20th. Our district cabinet is working actively to finalize our budget priorities, looking at staffing allocations, vacancies, and requests that were submitted. In addition, there were a number of facilities and renovation requests that will also be evaluated and prioritized. And then there are a number of unbudgeted programs and or initiatives that didn't fit within the allocation provided that also need to be reviewed and prioritized. We continue to work through our budget code alignment with New York State reporting requirements, which is important for our reporting purposes, and ensuring that our staff are properly allocated to align with building and program, because again, that is something that we have to regularly report to New York State in various formats. We also have ongoing communication with district-wide leadership. We had some time to discuss our budget process with them earlier this afternoon. We are looking at our transportation planning and also construction and renovation planning for next year. We are also evaluating our reserves. If you recall, we did have a number of reserves that were appropriated into the 24-25 budget, and so we need to plan on how to responsibly use or engage our reserves going forward into 25-26. And then looking ahead, there are just a number of dates that we will be bringing additional budget presentations before you. And so obviously, December 10th is done. We move on to the 7th, which is today. And then we will be back on both February 4th and February 11th, which is just a short time between. We have sessions on March 4th and March 20th, and a hearing scheduled for May 6th, and the budget vote scheduled statewide for May 20th. Just a snapshot, just as a reminder of what's composed within our district budget on the revenue side. The current year budget is $347,487,639 on both the revenue and expenditure side. This is really just bringing back into focus for the board and for the community the portion of our total revenue and where those sources come from. As you can see, almost 70% of our district budget is raised through our tax levy or our community, residents and businesses, and state and federal aid makes up about just under 26%. And so, as Mr. Leal mentioned, waiting for those foundation aid numbers, also building aid numbers, that's sort of 26% of our overall revenue. And then the tax levy that the board votes on before we finalize the budget to present to our voters, that's about just under 70%. On the expenditure side, we just wanted to highlight, once again, we must bring a balanced budget, but just to bring back to everyone's memory, if you will, that our salary and benefits are dictated by collective bargaining agreements. It really makes up 74% of the district budget. If you look at contractual services, supplies and materials, and some BOCES services, we've regularly had conversations about what is discretionary spending. You know, what do we have choices about how we spend the resources that come into the district from the community and other sources. If you put together contractual supplies and materials and BOCES services, it's under 20%. And just a portion of those is really within our discretionary spending. So I just wanted to make sure that the board and community understands from an expenditure and revenue standpoint, what does the pie sort of look like for this year as we plan for next year. So once again, when we do bring you budget presentations and we conclude the process, we must ensure that our revenue matches our expenditures. We cannot bring you a budget that's over on expenditures and light on the revenue, or vice versa. And so we are continuing to work through the process, working with the cabinet and district-wide leadership. There are various ways that the board and community can engage with us to provide feedback as we go through the process. We had review sessions, we have presentations before the board as listed before our budget hearing, and also the administrative requests that come in various formats. We do have an email address available. It's budgetquestions@nredlearn.org for anyone in the community that would like to submit a question to us so that we can do our best to address or answer. You also have, obviously, the community has the opportunity to attend our board meetings, watch the meetings that are streamed via the website, and I believe all of those archive videos are also available on the website as well. And so that concludes this portion of our presentation for tonight, and open up for any questions.
And if I just may add to that also, some people in the community may be wondering, well, why are they presenting this to us if there are no real changes? Please know it is prescribed by law that we have our budget workshops, and the number of workshops are prescribed. We also have a timeline in which that prescription must be delivered. So that is why we are going to continue with our with our roadmap, so that the community stays informed in real time, and that you understand what it is that we have in our knowledge to present to you. Even if there aren't any updates within a short period of time, we want to inform you of that as well.
Do any of my colleagues have any comments or questions? All right, well, seeing none. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up on our agenda are liaison reports. Do any of my colleagues have any liaison reports they would like to make? Oh, I do actually. Thank you, Dr. Reynolds, for reminding me. So, actually, on February 5th, next month, is the New Rochelle Fund for Educational Excellence annual dinner and event. So it's a great night. They're honoring 3 amazing individuals. If you're interested in attending, you can go on nredfund.org, NREDFUND.org. Seeing no other liaison reports, we're going to move on to, public comment. So I currently have no one signed up for public comment. Would anyone like to sign up tonight? Seeing none, we can move on to our new business consent agenda personnel resolutions. Colleagues, can I get a motion and second to approve consent agenda for personnel resolutions number 25-233, 1 through 1, number 25-234, 1 through 9, number 25-235, 1 through 12, number 25-236, 1 through 5, and number 25-237, 1 through 17, according to the recommended action for each item.
So moved, Ross.
Second, Castellano Minaya.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is new business consent agenda general resolutions. Colleagues, can I get a motion and a second to approve consent agenda for general resolutions number 25-238 through number 25-245, according to the recommended action for each item?
So moved, Castellano Minaya.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Our next meeting will be on Tuesday, January 21st, 6 o'clock at Isaac E. Young Middle School. Colleagues, can I get a motion and second to adjourn the meeting?
So moved, Castellano Minaya.
Second, Ross.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Good night, everyone.